Welcome back to Krown's Uncaffeinated Cave as we get ready for a nice little Saturday morning over here from a little overcast and rainy Helsinki, Finland. I would like to begin by wishing you the best and happiest as always, because why the fuck not, baby? It can only help. And we need a little bit of help. We need a little bit of love in this world right now because it is a boring weekend. I do expect going onwards and forwards from here. So typically speaking, when it comes to the weekend, if you are new to this channel, I usually just use it for the next week to kind of prepare. And while there are a few interesting things to be aware of, perhaps in the next 24 to 36 hours, I suspect that as typical, weekend price action not too super titillating and mostly going to be used for washing out both over-leveraged longs and over-leveraged shorts. The old Darth Maul dildos probably looming overhead right now. Anyways, with that said, let's go into the Krown Chain application right now, which can be found in the link description below for the price of free. It's literally $0.00. Anyways, with that said, what do we see? We do see Bitcoin dominance to take a bit of a small step back from yesterday to today. More importantly, with this, we typically do see in this sort of phase of the market that alts will typically gain versus their Bitcoin parents over the weekend. But on the whole, I do still suspect that that is trending upwards for Bitcoin dominance, meaning that Bitcoin altcoin parents are probably going to be losing over the next month or two to come. Anyways, with that in mind, fear ingredient index at the highest levels that we have seen in a couple months here at a right bold 74 to 76 over the past couple days here, which is to be expected after about a $10,000 rally, pretty much unabated. Sorry, more like at this point, more like $16,000 run unabated. Anyways, with that in mind, any big winners from the last 24 hours? Yeah, certainly we do see it over here. Seller, Shiba yet again on there. How the fuck is that one on there? I suspect that one's more or less ranging right now after hitting its highs. Harmony, MDEX, Filecoin, IOS, Curve DAO, Siacoin, Clayton, and Axie Infinity. All putting up some gains in the last 24 hours, looking at not so bad right there. Into the market data tab we go. A few interesting things over here, namely with actually, if I can remove my face for this one, the global open interest, you do see it kind of creeping up ever so slightly higher. And I do express some cautionary advisory with this. No, some cautionary advisory. Look, this is not like a fucking advice or anything like that. I'm just expressing my views for better or worse on this market. And you can take that and use it in your own trading plan, or just, take whatever you like, take whatever you don't like, or discard whatever you don't like is what I'm trying to say, and go onwards and forwards for them, because for some reason, this whole pain, these two pains right here, the open interest and the global leverage ratio, people really do not like when I talk about this. Not necessarily people, but certainly it seems to get some interesting comments, I'll say that. But I do still look at this as somewhat concerning. Still not actionable just yet. This is creeping up here. We are around the same levels that we saw from late August. Before the early September washout, but obviously that did get up to just under 13 billion open interest before that nice and eventful day. And of course, right now, for reference, we're just under 11 billion. And of course, that needs to be combined with a global leverage ratio, which is still not in the super critical region. So while these are, cautionary things in the back of my mind's eye, it's not, it's still not, in any way, shape, or form actionable, I suspect, for now. And we'll come up with, price action ranges where where I believe that would be rather compelling or rather concerning. But for right now, still just in the periphery, but not necessarily actionable just yet, as the global leverage ratio is around the same levels, again, right before that early September dump, but still can go a little bit higher here. For reference, that was at about 0.176%, actually very similar to our April all-time highs, by the way, as well. And of course, our major November dumps as well from last year, almost 1 year ago, actually. And right now, we are currently operating at about 0.14% as far as the global leverage ratio goes. So it can still go up a little bit more there, but at some point, I expect that we will do a little bit of washing of these over-leveraged, highly esteemed participants in this lovely market. Anyways, with that said, global funding rate is at the highest levels that we have seen in over a month now, trending up, more importantly, and almost around that 0.0, actually, no, not around 0.012, or sorry, 0.02, I was going to say 0.015 on the global scale right there. So you are paying to hold your longs once again, obviously, and have been ever since late September. And with that in mind, that is still not anything too concerning. I mean, obviously, you can see over here, it was rather concerning when it was getting around 0.1% for prolonged periods of times. That is about when Bitcoin did put in its all-time high, by the way, as well. And for right now, this is nice and steady, which is good, especially coming into a, more or less long-term macro, not necessarily short-term, but macro, healthy consolidation below Bitcoin's prior all-time highs. I mean, that is a good setup for what it's worth. Long-term macro. And again, to read it, my thoughts right here. to assuage the Boolaws there, because I'm never fucking bullish enough for the Boolaws and never bearish enough for the Bearaws. Yes, I do think that Bitcoin makes new ultimates before end of year, and if I had to call right now, probably looking at Bitcoin all-time highs at like 110 to 135,000 bucks. Maybe around the end of the cycle or something like that. Anyways, with that in mind, let's go to the price action charts right now and get down and deep and dirty into it, as we do see Bitcoin playing out a bit of a weekend range right here, as we do see it put in yet again another what would be somewhat of a higher low right here on the 4 hour. Now, keep in mind, when it does come to the weekend, I really don't trust this all that much, and if I did a call right now, if we can get at my nice little drawing tools right here and do some Picasso bullshit, I'm probably gonna look at some like blip, 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 something like that. It's pretty damn typical over the weekend. But hey, at the end of the day, should come up with some areas of action right here, obviously. And how to be doing this. Well, if I'm on a 4 hour right now, I would say that we do have a break of the top side of the range, not necessarily anytime soon, but I'd actually be using the wick highs right here. These do seem to kind of protect you a little bit more, especially over the weekend, from these somewhat less than truthful moves, we'll call them, and that'd be about 55,800 or 55,850 or so. This is actually on BitMEX, so I just want to check on GDAX as well. Yeah, I'd actually like this area right here for the weekend specifically. That is going to be 55.8, we'll call it, on a 4 hour closure. If you're using an hourly, could use that as well, but I would be a little bit more conservative with that. Actually, you know what? In this case, probably fine as well. If you want to be super conservative, you just use the wick high of yesterday. Actually, I think it was yesterday at least, 56.3 on GDAX as well. By the way, I really like GDAX. Or sorry, I keep on calling it GDAX. It's Coinbase now. They've renamed themselves like a million fucking times. For general spot underlying price action, because it's just included in like all the major indexes for all of your futures and perps exchanges and all that good stuff, and also it just seems to get things right a lot of the time for the regular exchanges right here, especially over the weekend, in comparison to CME, which I really favor during the trading week. So with that said, obviously the bottom side of the range, same thing as yesterday, 53,700 or so. Wouldn't necessarily need to see a full hour for that one in order for me to look at it as quote unquote broken. I could probably also use this one on a buy hourly as well, looking for a move down somewhere, probably do some wick fishing. I mean, this is the difficult thing about a weekend. Like, we could easily get a wick down to 53,000 bucks. Very likely do play a bit of a short-term bounce right there, something like that. If that does fail, if you start to close like hourlies below there, let's say, then yeah, I would be looking for next leg down somewhere just below 52. Let's call it 51,500 or so. Perhaps even all the way down to 51,000 bucks. Who knows where a stray wick can land in this market right now? But let's actually go over the higher term timeframes, as I have not done that just yet. We have a 2-day closing tonight, so this would probably be the most important things that is going to be happening in the next 17 hours, 55 minutes, and 0 seconds actually. Right there as time continues to pass by. And what do we see? We do see that 2-day is going to have a 2-day. The 2-day chart, 2-day, expiring 2-day, is going to have a chance to close above the topside Toronto band for the first time. Actually, since the late July, early August run, in fact, which was a pretty damn powerful one. And if that does happen, I would be looking for the next sort of general move up somewhere around Bitcoin's, prior highs at about 60,000 bucks, let's call it, give or take, 1,000 from that number, probably into early this coming week, actually, if that would happen. Now, Bitcoin does close below the topside Toronto band, which, by the way, is currently situated at about 55,000 bucks, technically a little bit below there, but I really like to see it close with a nice little body above there would be good. Then I'd probably be looking for Bitcoin to play at a bit of explore a little bit of the downside range in the interim, probably coming into next week as well. So pretty damn easy way to pin this one right now. But for reference, we obviously closed a 5-day, and we're going to be closing a weekly tomorrow. And the 5-day, still looking pretty damn good overall. Any sort of price action above 50,000 bucks, I like, or at least it's not that I like. It's like, if I want to be bullish and maintain my macro bullishness with pressure on from this sort of a time frame perspective, anything above 50,000 or 50,500, if you want to be super exact, looks really good, to be fair. So keep in mind, we have gone on for about a $16,000 rally without any real major pullback on any of these more relevant timeframes, in my opinion, for a macro move like this. And so at some point, Bitcoin will do that, but we don't necessarily have a local high just yet. If you're looking at a daily right here, this is not anything for me. I mean, this is actually rather strong price action. It's just I don't necessarily trust it over the weekend. If I saw this over the weekdays, if this was like a Monday or a Tuesday, just a regular trading day, I'd say, look, this is a fucking easy call right here. We're going 60,000 probably, and it's probably happening sooner rather than later. But let's say that Bitcoin does put in a little bit of a local high right here. And how would you know that it's put in a local high? Let's say that we close the daily below about 53,700 or 54,000 bucks, basically the same lower term time frame pivots that we looked at earlier in this video. Then I'd do something like this, pull up a nice little Fibby, and let's see what we got. Oh, what do you know? 382s right around 50,000 bucks. So I do kind of like that area. If things really do get aggressive to the downside, be looking somewhere right around here. But ultimately, Bitcoin does have higher lows. And this is the important part. When you go for a $16,000 rally, you got higher lows. As long as you're above 41,000 bucks. So, for the grand scheme of things, as long as Bitcoin's above these regions right here, that's kind of, the line in the sand, I would say. I don't think Bitcoin's going to actually retrace that much if this is indeed the move. Typically speaking, you do want to see these things kind of not really give people like too many chances to like BTFD, so to speak. If this quite literally is like the macro move in the making that I think a lot of people think it is, and I'm very much open to. In fact, I mean, I do think that it's going to end in that. And you essentially just kind of want to see Bitcoin actually hold where it is currently, as you right around the 236. I actually have it as a 2.2 right there, a little bit lower than that, to be fair. So maybe we do get a wick down around there over the weekend, wash out some over leveraged longs, and then clear some space overhead. Definitely possible. Especially with a weekend of fuckery, but in this case right here, it's not very wise to call a local top before it is in there. So again, if I saw this over the weekdays, I'd say very obviously this is extreme likely to go to the upside, and we're very likely to work our way back up towards about 60,000 bucks, let's call it. And we can also further verify that or have further confluence here on the volume profile. As you can see, the last of the thick and high value nodes is pretty much coming within that region between about 58.5 and about just below 60,000 bucks, and above there, it's pretty much all air at that point. Bitcoin's, in its blue sky breakouts yet again, and well, I think we all know how that goes, typically speaking. So all good in the hood on that. Anyways, with that in mind, I'm going to take this off for right now, and let's go back on over here with these ranges in mind for the short-term timeframes. Let's look at momentum oscillators. I don't trust them too much over the weekend. And just for what it's worth, if you are looking at momentum oscillators right here, just a quick little like, I guess, tip or something that I found that's massively helped myself, massively helped myself in training markets. When you are in a training market, which we do have right now, taking the signals on the same side as the trend for your momentum oscillators, if you're using them to begin with, maybe you are, maybe not, is going to fucking massively increase their efficacy. And when you do get a counter signal to the trend, so in this case, that would be a downside signal to the greater trend in this case, then usually just aligns with a bit of a short-term range, which probably does put in your next short-term local low before further continuations. In this case right here, just go over it just for further clarity. We do see hourly Stokes will remain to the upside as long as about 54,000 bucks. To be fair, HVP is way down here, so we are very likely to look at a move at least to the sides of the ranges today. So in that case, if it comes to the upside, we're looking at just under 56,000 bucks. If we're looking at the downside, we're looking at about 53,700. Personally speaking, if we do see the downside happen, I think at that point we're very likely to get like a wick lower and then probably bounce back up, something like that. Probably going to be the name of the game right here. And if we go over to the buy hourly, let's see what we got as well. Yep, buy hourly is going to be heading up as long as about 54,420 on this next closure. Great number right there as well. 3 hours is going to be showing what? It's going to be showing a cross up, fresh one, by the way, as long as we close above 54.5, and 4 hour is going to be showing down as long as below 55,800. So very short-term time for momentum oscillators, suggesting a test back up towards the tops of the range, probably intraday here. 4 hour said, hold your horses on like an actual breakout extension until we actually do close above there. But hey, it is very interesting to see that the 4 hour Stokes is pinned exactly, kind of where I have this as an upside resolution as well. Technically speaking, this is not going to show up in like a book or anything, about like formations. And I'm not a big formation trader myself. I do probably make more fun of them than not. But I do have respect for formation traders because, it certainly can be done. It's just not my edge. But let's say that we were to resolve this to the upside. You actually do have something going on right here. You do have, if you you can look at this multiple ways. You can either look at this as some sort of rising bottoms, which would be an ascending triangle. You could also call it just a bullish, or not necessarily a bullish, but just a rectangle is actually the word. And those actually do work really, really well in traditional markets, just for what it's worth, in case you happen to trade traditional markets. They work really, really well in those markets. But in this case right here, we could just, play around with measure moves and what do you know, point it up towards about $58,000, also confluent with the volume profile there as well. And let's go into the medium term time frame and see where they start to turn up as well, or all. And 12-hour turns up with a closure back above 55,900. Okay, so a lot of things pinned around that area just below 56, and daily is going to also be up as long as we're above about 55,450 as well. So looking good there too. Anyways, we are 15 minutes into this video. I want to make this one more short. Tomorrow we'll go into more long-term detail and fun stuff, but basically today, some Saturday boringness, I suspect, and get ready for something like that. Sorry, it doesn't necessarily need to resolve to the downside. In fact, I'm not necessarily leaning towards that right now. I'd really only get concerned about price action on the higher term timeframes again if Bitcoin starts to really crash back down below 49 to 50,000 bucks. In this case right here, quick wicks down to 53 is completely fine. Bitcoin extends it a little bit more and actually breaks that area. It'd be looking somewhere around about 51.5. But ultimately, weekend times typically going to be opportunities. And just as an aside as well, a lot of the time over the weekend, you will see contra moves to the week's direction. In this case, obviously the week's direction was to the upside. So a contra move to that would be, to the downside, wash some people out and then bring it back on Sunday, something like that. Anyways, keep in mind, CME did close the week at 55,180, so looking really, really good right there. Also should be known that CME did close the 5-day above topside Toronto band here too. By the way, I do have a nice big old measured move on CME formation right here towards super all-time high, 64,000 bucks, not bad. But this obviously not trading over the weekend isn't really actionable or relevant right now. It really matters for like the next week to come. So once we get Sunday open all the way through, I think Thursday is going to be when the closure is. Then, well, that's kind of where I'd be looking at that as actionable. Weekly, did it close above the topside Toronto band as well? Technically, no, it did not close about 300 bucks below, but still, this is a really, really good setup right here. If there's a back test down to like 52 or 51.50, that's completely fine. I'd be looking at that again as an opportunity, and this one very likely to work way up 60,000 plus, in the next month or so, maybe even sooner rather than later, depending upon how this next week open goes. So that's pretty much all that I'm looking at right now. Simple stuff today. Didn't even look at my momentum oscillators over here, so maybe we briefly go through them. Whoops, that's not the right chart. That's even trading right now. So let's go over to this one. Here we go. All right. Yep, BBWP coming off the low. So we are looking at a move intraday here. Hourly RSI playing out some hidden bullish divergence. So again, another point in the Bulaw's court here for probably another try somewhere into the mid 55s. Short term, buy hourly, same sort of setup. Hidden bullish divergence coming off the last low right there as well, and reclaiming the EMA on my RSI is looking good. 4 hour, what do we see right here? Same thing. Hidden bullish divergence going to be potential if we do close basically here or higher by the end of the next hour and 45 minutes. And same sort of setup on BBWP. I should denote though that 4 hour jewel is giving a little bit of downside curvature right there. Not supported by DMI, so I do not look at those signals as like majorly actionable. If they are going to be actionable, it's just very likely to bring us to the bottom side of the range. So that can obviously change on the next closure, but at least for now, that is what it does suggest. 12 hour, same thing, just short-term corrective here. And daily, same thing as well. So other than that, I think big eyes on the 2-day closure today. That's going to essentially make me biased towards whether we see continuation sooner rather than later or not. And with that said, I hope this one served you well. I will see you in the next one. Take care.